Happy Friday. We begin in Washington, where on Halloween, much of our nation's capital feels like a ghost town. The halls of Congress are eerily vacant as a haunted house, largely because the majority of lawmakers have decided not to come together to reopen the government. It is a decision that has conjured the specter of hunger for tens of millions of Americans. 42 million people rely on food stamps, a truly astounding number. Nearly 40% of them are children, and more than 1 million other recipients served in the U.S. military. The food assistance was due to run out in less than 5 hours from now. That was until 2 federal judges in Rhode Island and Massachusetts stepped in this afternoon and ordered the Trump administration to keep the program funded. To do that, the Trump administration will have to dip into contingency funds set aside by Congress, kind of like an emergency savings account of $6 billion. That alone won't be enough. SNAP benefits cost the government $9 billion a month. So the government has been ordered to dip into other funds to meet the shortfall. President Trump responding to those court orders just now, posting, "If we are given the appropriate legal direction by the court, it will be my honor to provide the funding." And speaking of SNAP, President Trump says the government in its entirety could, quote, snap back into shape in an instant, he says, as soon as the Democrats play ball.
They've never done a thing like this. They've become crazed lunatics. All they have to do is say, let's go, let's open up our country, and everything snaps back into shape. So there's something wrong with them.
Now, all this comes after a late-night social media rant by the president calling on Republicans to deploy the, quote, nuclear option, that being the complete removal of the filibuster. "Get rid of it now," he posted. "It would immediately end this ridiculous country-destroying shutdown. If the Democrats ever came back into power, it will be done the first day they take office, regardless of whether or not we do it." Now, eliminating the filibuster means that senators would no longer need 60 votes to reopen the government. They would just need 51, a simple majority. The filibuster question, though, is a perennial quandary for the party in power. Eliminating it with the nuclear option would provide short-term benefit of being able to pass whatever the power and party wants, but it also carries the long-term risk of seeing that same power used against them when the opposition returns to power. And that is why Senate Majority Leader John Thune has repeatedly called that nuclear option a bad idea. But of course, history of Washington is rife with examples of bad ideas that became bad laws. Here to help us make sense of all of it is Leland Vittert. He's NewsNation's chief Washington anchor and host of On Balance. Leland, great to have you on the show. I want to ask you, first of all, about this moments ago post from President Trump. 2 federal judges ruled today that the Trump administration must use the emergency funds passed by Congress to fund food stamps. And the president just posted this statement saying if he's given appropriate legal direction, he'll do it. Is this a capitulation? What is this?
No, not at all, because I think the second part of this Truth Social post, he says that the judges need to clarify how they can legally fund SNAP. I had a long discussion with some very well-placed sources earlier today. It is the position of the Republicans that the contingency funds are not allowed by Congress, are not legally allowed to be used for SNAP benefits. So the question would be, can the court effectively not overrule a decision by the president, which is what Democrats are saying this is, but overrule how the contingency fund was put in place? And they're making the point that this is separate from how the contingency funds are used to pay the U.S. military, because DOD is given a lot more discretion, or Department of War is given a lot more discretion in how they use their contingency fees. So I think that's why you're seeing this very careful language by the president, which basically says the court needs to tell us how we can legally do this. They're saying their hands are tied.
So too soon for people on food stamps, that would be 42 million Americans, to celebrate.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. You've been taking the temperature in Washington all day, and you are hearing that this nuclear option that the president has been on a tear about is dead on arrival on Capitol Hill, despite all of Trump's media posts.
Yeah, my sources tell me that they're about 15 votes short in the Republican caucus. So obviously, none of the Democrats will vote for this, although there was some talk of John Fetterman a couple of weeks ago who said he might vote for it. But my sources inside the Republican caucus in the Senate tell me that they just don't have the votes to do it. On top of that, as you laid out in your open, I think very well, the fear among Republicans of doing it that Democrats will then do it back, and then the laws of reciprocity say, you know, don't do unto others what has been done unto you, but do it worse. So rather than for funding, it would be used for some kind of legislative priorities, something on abortion or something like that. So Republicans are quite loath to go down that route.
Yeah, it's not just that there aren't enough votes to pass this banning the filibuster. Leader John Thune has made this a priority, preserving the filibuster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, exactly. But that's why I think it's a twofold thing. I think, number one, they don't have the votes to do it. Number two, they want to preserve the filibuster. You can argue chicken or egg here, but the fact of the matter is the votes don't exist, and my sources tell me they probably won't exist for an extended period of time.
I want to get back to the food stamp issue, Leland, because it's so striking. 1 in 8 Americans are on food stamps. That's 42 million people. And contrary to what you see on social media, where there's a lot of wrong things said often, most of the people on food stamps are working. They have jobs. They're just low-wage jobs. How does the richest country on the planet have 42 million people who need food stamps to eat?
Well, it's a great question. You could turn it around and say how great it is that our country is willing to feed 1 in 8 people. There's no other country in the world that's coming close to doing that. Those that tried, Venezuela, Russia, or the old Soviet Union, Cuba, haven't done so successfully. So I think, if anything, the SNAP program or EBT or food stamps, whatever you want to call it, is proof of America is great because we are good and compassionate to our fellow citizens. The deeper point, I think, of what you're pointing out is the income inequality issues, and the idea of grocery bill voters. I said that yesterday to Chuck Todd on the program. You know, we always look for who's going to be the deciding electorate, right? You know, there was always that time about soccer moms, and, you know, there's sort of like, this is going to be the group of people who will decide an election. I think you may be coming to a place pretty soon here where grocery bill voters are the ones who are just angry, understandably so, as you point out, to be living in the world's richest country but still struggling to buy food, that will decide the next election.
Hey, super quick, polls show that nearly half of all Americans blame President Trump and the Republican Party for this shutdown, but 37% blame Democrats, and now nearly half of Americans say they are extremely worried about this shutdown. Who's going to blink first?
Democrats.
When?
That's my reporting. That's my reporting is that next Wednesday or Thursday they want to get through the election because Democrats want to show their base that they can stand up to Trump. So once Tuesday's election for Virginia and New Jersey governor is over, Chuck Schumer, my reporting shows, will take the handcuffs off and allow probably 15 or 20 Democrats to vote with Republicans to reopen the government.
All right, let's see if that in fact happens. It's right here. We can roll back the tape. Leland Vittert, have a great show tonight in just a couple hours on Balance You. Don't forget to watch it here on NewsNation.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.